Eric Dickerson, NFL Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson, with a lot of different connections in the NFL, says the quiet part out loud on the Rogan and Rodney podcast. I'm about to let you hear his voice talk about Shedeur Sanders and what happened during the NFL draft. Listen to this. Listen. It is bombshell information.
And I'll tell you this much here: what I heard from someone that's in the NFL, that the NFL told other, don't draft him, do not draft him. We're gonna make an example out of him. And this came from a very good source, And he said that, I won't say who, somebody called the Cleveland Browns and said, don't do that. Draft
Really?
him. Yep, draft him. Don't do that, because they weren't gonna draft him either. They weren't gonna draft him. They were forced into drafting him because somebody made a call to them, said, it's good, you know. And I say, when I say this is a NFL side source for sure, you know. So this is not here. So look, one thing about it is, and I'll just say it, you know, they don't like when guys have brands, especially black players, you know. And that's mostly us with the brand, you know. We kind of, some guys are flashy and all that kind of stuff. They don't like that. This kid, Fred, I don't think you knew this. He had already made $17 million from a car deal that he already signed. A car deal. He had $17 million already for that. Then he had another 14, I think, from a was it a shoe, Nike or some shoe deal. So he was good with money wise, but I know he wants to play in the National Football League for sure.
So how does he do that? I mean, Cleveland picked him. I find it fascinating, Eric. You're saying somebody even called the Browns and said, don't do that.
Yeah, somebody called the Browns and said.
So what was the objective? He doesn't get picked? He's an undrafted free agent?
That's exactly what's going to happen. They were going to have him, he was not going to get drafted, to basically show you this is what happens when you do this. I mean, look, you know, Fred, the NFL got all kind of power. They do all kind of stuff. You know, you know that, and I know it too. But no, they were not going to draft him. And like I said, when I said it came from a good source, it came from a very, very good source. He said they weren't going to draft him. I like it because when I saw it, when he went to the second one, I said, oh, I said it out loud. They're not going to draft him. They're going to make an example out of him. I knew it.
So
the guy that they drafted, the quarterback they drafted ahead of him, he wasn't as good as Shedeur.
Now, I want you all to weigh in on the comments. What do you think? I found him to be very credible. I don't see why NFL Hall of Famer has to lie out of anywhere. I see how he could have connections. This man is a football legend and has been around the game a long, long time. So he's been around a lot of personnel a long, long time. So let's just recap. He said Shedeur Sanders dropped out of the first round, and from that point on, he in his heart knew they were trying to make an example out of him and his father. He mentioned that he had already got a bunch of sponsorship deals, which, by the way, the NFL knows about. The NFL has a very powerful investigative security arm that knows about all kind of different dealings. They talk to players all the time and tell them, hey, we saw you out this night, or we saw you out that night. Please watch yourself, or whatever the case may be. This is $1 trillion business. If you don't realize this, you add up all the 32 teams. All of these teams are worth billions. Collectively, they have a lot of money and they have a lot of law enforcement ties. So they know a lot of different things that could possibly go on. So to say they knew about the Shedeur contracts, I think so. That's just my opinion. Now, he comes in, according to Eric Dickerson, with approximately $30 million plus $1 million coming into the NFL, about to get drafted, presumably in the first round. For whatever anybody wants to say, there is no way that Shedeur was the third best quarterback. If you want to say you had Cam Ward ahead of him, okay, that's fine. He fit your system a little bit more. To say that he was not the second best quarterback in that whole draft, I'm sorry. He lit it up more than Jackson Dart did. So say you got Jackson Dart a little bit better. That's fine. Okay. You telling me he slides all the way down to the fifth round. And listen to what Eric Dickerson said, just to recap. He comes in with $30 million. He slips out of the first round. He feels like they're about to make an example of him. After the draft, he talks to NFL sources that he has that said, yeah, the word was put out, don't draft him. And if you think that's far-fetched, look what just happened to the NFLPA. their executive director. Now he resigned for a lot of different reasons, but one of the things that came up, not only him but his second in command signed off on evidence in an arbitration agreement that looked like collusion. And what collusion means is all the NFL owners or all the people in the NFL get together and they say, what? We need you to do XYZ off the books. Now, I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not here to say what's not true and what is true, but I do know that was in the agreement. That was in the arbitration agreement that they wanted to bury. Pablo Torre has done fantastic work on uncovering that. So if there's evidence of collusion in that case, don't tell me that there's not more. This again, it's a $1 trillion business, a multi hundreds of $billion business, if not trillion. They talk to each other. It's not 1 out of 32 on an island. It's 32 and plus the NFL office that keeps them connected. So you have what Eric Dickerson says. They wanted to make an example out of him. Oh, by the way, he gets prank called. Remember that Shedeur gets prank called by a NFL defensive coordinator's son out of the Atlanta Falcons, and he just so happens to get this phone number from his dad's iPad. The only stupid thing they did was record it. They could have completely got away with it, but they recorded it. Now, don't get me wrong, other people got prank called too, but bottom line, a NFL defensive coordinator's son prank calls Shedeur while he's waiting for his phone call that he was in the NFL draft. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy person, but a lot of these pieces are adding up. Now he continues to slide in the fifth round. There's been much talk about the Browns when they drafted Shedeur. They were not excited. They were not as excited as they were when they picked Dillon Gabriel and all the other folks. They're very stone faced. I didn't read too much in it at the time, but according to Eric Dickerson, again, he says a really influential person, from my understanding, made a call and said, "Hey, don't do that. Please go against whatever they said. That's enough." Now, if you know some of the people that run this country were tweeting during that draft weekend, saying this is ridiculous. People that are running the country, and you know the person I'm talking about was very vocal on, "Hey, what's going on?" So I don't know if you know, but owner Jimmy is tight with those people, with some of those folks, and from my understanding, the Cleveland Browns drafted Shedeur Sanders when they had already drafted a quarterback in the third round, and now they're coming back in the fifth round to draft somebody, and they were not happy. I mean, it's kind of adding up. So you got a voice that's calling in to the department of the Cleveland Browns and saying, "Hey, get this kid." And then, by the way, the Eagles were trading in that spot, or not the spot after that, to take Shedeur. And the Eagles just came back from uh, DC, did they not? When they, did their tour after winning the Super Bowl. You don't think the owners know people that run the country? So again, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry. A multi-billion-dollar industry team just won the Super Bowl. They went to DC. One of the biggest voices in DC was saying, "Hey, what's going on with Shedeur? Why y'all treating him like this?" It seems like some phone calls were made. I'm just saying, and that made them break this unearthed agreement. So I'm not going to bore you all. I just wanted you all to understand all these steps that we're seeing, and they're not in a silo. I'm not going to be here for anybody that says, "Oh, well, they don't do collusion." I mean, they don't act in one accord unofficially when there's evidence that they've done it before from this arbitration agreement recently, that the NFLPA head and his second in command are no longer there, and they have an interim executive director right now. That's not rocket science. You got the Colin Kaepernick situation. That's not rocket science. There's a lot of different things that have gone on, especially where you know coaches out of nowhere, getting fired, like John Gruden. Now, don't get me wrong, John Gruden had some emails that were warranted, but from my understanding, Raiders, from what I thought, the Raiders were just gonna let him keep coaching. But for some odd reason, that wasn't allowed. All these things add up. And my biggest thing is we have an NFL Hall of Famer putting his name on it, and there was no reason for him to. There's no reason for him to seek attention. There's no reason. He's already a Hall of Famer. He's already in. He's already done his thing. Man said what he had heard and who he had talked to. Now I would love to know his sources, but Eric Dickerson's a loyal guy. You go back to his SMU days. I don't think he's going to ever uncover it, but it's real interesting. It's very interesting. If somebody like the NFLPA wanted to file a grievance on behalf of this based on that evidence, what would they find? They found something recently. Why not do it again? I'm just saying, if I was a NFL representative of the players, I would definitely really weigh that in my mind. We have a witness that can go into arbitration or go into federal court and say, yeah, this is what I was told. And then we can go and look at some call history and say, hey, who called who? Why and what did they say? And what made you do this in this instance? There's a lot of people in those rooms. So, those type of secrets can't always stay when you think it is. So if it was a absolute collusion plan to keep Shedeur Sanders from getting drafted at all, and for him to have that kind of slide, I think that's deplorable. I think that he needs to be compensated for it, and I think that shouldn't have happened. There's nothing in that kid's background that he's not Antonio Brown. Okay, he's not some guy that represents himself in a poor way. Neither is his dad. His dad is an NFL Hall of Famer. Those people have done nothing to warrant such a made example out of. Nothing at all in Deion's career or Shedeur's career. Shedeur has been at every stop and been exemplary, and yet he was allegedly, I don't know, the eighth best quarterback in that draft. That's fictitious, and everybody knows that. So I hope this video um, illustrates the bullshit that we know about. And number two, where will it go from here? I think, like I said, I think the NFLPA needs to get involved, the interim people there, and see where it goes. And if it's what it is, this man needs to be compensated. Point blank, period. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Really appreciate you all. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Thank you for rocking with us. We're on the road to 30,000 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. I'm so thankful for you all, and have a good one. Heritage Sports.